In the name of God, in the name of Iran, and in the name of freedom, in the name of heroes of the Iranian people's freedom from the martyrs of June 20th, 1981, and Ashraf Rajavi, Musa Khiyabani, to those massacred and executed in 88, to Sadiq Mujawiri and Neda Hassani, from Neda Agha Sultan and Sattar Beheshti to the 10 mujahids who became immortal on February 9 and June 15th in liberty. I salute the heroes of the resistance and perseverance, the combatants of freedom in Ashraf and liberty, as well as political prisoners across Iran, and hail to the valiant people who are preparing for the struggle and uprising. And last but not least, I want to salute the elected representatives of more than 50 countries, as well as senior officials and commanders from the US, Canada, Australia, Europe, Asia, Arab countries and Africa who have gathered here in solidarity with the Iranian people. I hail them all. Dear compatriots, the election masquerade, which concluded with the introduction of the mullah's new president and the rocket attack on the killing of the mujahideen in Camp Liberty in Iraq, reflects the phase of the regime's overthrow. That sham had no semblance of a genuine for free election. The 8 hand-picked candidates were advisors, aides, or representatives of Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. And this election was held in circumstances of absolute repression, denial of access to internet, a ban on media, and the mobilization of 1 million Revolutionary Guards and security agents. In every step of the way, the so-called election revealed the regime's impasse from the summary disqualification of the candidates and the utterly ludicrous debate among the candidates to the hasty wrap-up of the election. Accordingly, please allow me to underscore several key points. First, the regime in its entirety came out weaker after the election and moved a step closer to being overthrown. Khamenei rejected Hashemi Rafsanjani, but in doing so, owing to the regime's internal balance, he failed to engineer the election such that it could secure the victory of one of his favorite candidates. Fearing the eruption of protest, he gave into the election of Mullah Hassan Rowhani. Afraid that his sham election would return into a noose around the regime's neck, Khamenei hastily wrapped it up and gave up on the idea of a runoff. Otherwise, gatherings that had taken place on the eve of the election with a chance of free all political prisoners would have quickly turned into a widespread uprisings. Second, by firing rockets at Camp Liberty and carrying out a massacre simultaneous with the election, the clerical regime demonstrated what it perceived to be the main threat to the entirety of the regime. For this reason, several hours before announcing the election result, Khamenei tried to conceal his defeat by attacking Liberty and murdering the combatants of freedom in a bid to warn the Iranian people who were poised to stage uprisings. Third, The ascendance of Rouhani is the byproduct of a series of defeats suffered by the totality of the regime. Khamenei's defeat, the disintegration of the ruling faction, Ahmadinejad's defeat, the impasse of the policy of contraction, and the failure and impetude of the so-called reformists within the regime. Therefore, this is not a choice for reforming the regime or saving it from being overthrown, but rather it is a choice for the final phase of the mullah's regime. Fourth, so long as this regime is in power, nothing will change. The only solution is the overthrow of the clerical regime. As the Iranian resistance leader Maryam Rajavi said, the disruption of the evil regime's internal equilibrium testifies to the supreme leader's weakness and unstable situation. This is a welcome development for the Iranian people because it offers an opportunity for the advancement of the resistance and the uprising. Nevertheless, as I said after the announcement of the results, we say to the regime's new president, nothing will change so long as freedom of expression and human rights are non-existent. Political prisoners and political parties are not free. The regime's intransigent policy in Syria and Iraq remain intact. The regime insists on obtaining nuclear weapons. Nothing will change. This is because the Supreme Leader is well aware that any serious change in these policies would lead to the overthrow of the regime in its entirety. Nevertheless, we say, go ahead, this is your chance. Fifth, the new president of the clerical regime, who has come to the scene with the slogan of moderation, is a veteran functionary of the regime's machinery of war, security, and repression. Nevertheless, we say to those Western countries and appeasers who are trying in vain to portray such a figure as a moderate that please proceed. If you can, then compel the regime to retreat from its nuclear program. Drink the chalice of poison. If you can, then compel the mullahs to stop interfering in Syria, Iraq, and Lebanon. But I warn that you must not waste any opportunities. After a decade of futile talks, you must not be beguiled by someone who boasts of being quite adept at deceiving Westerners. Don't be fooled once again. You must prevent the regime before its nuclear bomb drops on the people of the world. Six, beyond all the election commotion, the ruling regime has waged war on the people of Syria to forestall its overthrow. This dirty war is not to save Assad, but to save Khamenei in Tehran, because the regime has to spread fundamentalism and terrorism from Afghanistan to Iraq and from Bahrain to Yemen in order to preserve itself. The world's conscience is distressed to see that the Western countries have stood by, only looking on while 100,000 women, men, and children in Syria have been so massacred. The time has come for you to stop tolerating the Revolutionary Guards and the Quds Force in Latakia, Tartus, and Beirut, and to end their presence.